Good morning, everybody. Good morning. It seems very quiet in here today. I don't know if it's because it's so cold outside or you guys are all home over for Christmas, but you just seem very quiet. That's okay. We'll have a quiet service today. Amen? Hey, quick announcement. All the Christmas decorations that were put up in the weeks before Christmas, they have to come back down now. We meant to put something in the bulletin, but we're going to take the decorations down this Saturday at 10 o'clock. And we need as much help as we can get. We need men, women, anybody who can help. Be here Saturday at 10, and we'll get everything packed up for next year. Again, good morning to all of you, and Happy New Year, right? Happy New Year! I'm so glad you're here with your church family today. So glad you're here today. I know that a lot of you spent time with family these last couple weeks, yes? Yes. Some of you had family come and visit you in your home. Some of you traveled to go see family. Probably most of you are pretty tired of your family at this point. So I'm really glad you're here with your church family. This is a special time of year, isn't it? It's a very special time of year. People are thinking about how to make the new year different, how to make a new start, make a new beginning. It's an exciting time of year. Kind of a frustrating time of year for me, because most days after work I go to the gym. And for about the next month, the gym is going to be so full of people that I won't even be able to get a workout done. You know, all these people who made New Year's resolutions to reclaim their health and get back in shape, and they'll be lined up at the elliptical machines and the treadmills and the stair climbs. They'll have their colorful new workout gear on and their new Nike cross trainers. And they'll have this look of determination on their faces, you know, like this is it. This is going to be the year. I'm finally going to do it. Finally going to get back in shape. Happens every year. You know what else happens every year? By about February, all those people will be gone, and the gym will be back to normal. Right? Happens every year. Studies show that almost all of us make New Year's resolutions, but almost none of us ever keep them. I'm going to start that diet. I'm going to quit smoking. We get back in health. I'm going to pay off that debt. We all make resolutions, and we so rarely keep them. Why is that? Like, why are we so bad at this? We see the change that we want to make in ourselves, and then we don't make the change. Why is that? Why can't we change ourselves? Well, the truth is we can. We can change ourselves. We've just been going about it in the wrong way. We keep wanting to focus on the outside stuff instead of focusing on the inside stuff. In fact, you know what? Let me just cut to the chase. I don't want to dance around this issue. So let me just tell you exactly where I'm going today, okay? The biggest problem that you're going to face in 2018 is not out there. It's in here. The biggest problem that you're going to face in 2018 is not your relationships. It's not your marriage. It's not your kids. It's not your family. It's not your money. It's not your work. It's not your weight. It's not your bad habits. The biggest problem that you're going to face in 2018 is you. It's your heart, your mind, your soul, your spirit, your character. It's all that stuff in here. It's all that stuff that's a lot harder to see and a whole lot harder to admit. You know, I love Jesus. Love that. Love his teachings. And I love the way Jesus would always tell people the truth. Like Like, Jesus didn't tell people what they wanted to hear. He told people the truth. He told people the truth about themselves. And a lot of times, that truth was hard to hear. And one of the hard truths that Jesus often told people was that all the problems they were facing in life had a whole lot more to do with what was going on inside than with what was going on outside. Over and over and over, Jesus told people to take responsibility for the stuff in here. Because it's the stuff in here that causes all of our problems out there. In Mark chapter 7, Jesus said, "What comes out of a man is what makes him unclean. For from within, out of men's hearts, come evil thoughts, sexual immorality, theft, murder, adultery, greed, malice, deceit, lewdness, envy, slander, arrogance, and folly." That is quite a list, yes? That is quite a list. And Jesus says that all those things come from inside of us. Like, those things are not some external reality. All those things are born right here. And they live right here. You know, people are fond of saying the devil made me do it. Well, it turns out that's pretty convenient for us. Because if the devil made me do it, that means it came from outside of me. But Jesus is saying the devil doesn't have to make us do anything, because all that evil already exists inside of us. You see all that stuff? Look at all the bad stuff on that list. Look at that. Evil thoughts, sexual immorality, theft, murder, adultery, greed, malice, deceit, lewdness, envy, slander, arrogance, and folly. Do you see that list? Jesus says that everything on that list is not even the real problem. Like, all that stuff is just a symptom of the real problem.
That's right.
The real problem, Jesus says, the real problem is right there.
Our hearts.
It's our hearts. Like, all that other stuff comes out of our hearts. Our hearts are the real problem. Do you understand what Jesus is saying here? I have my 4-year-old granddaughter with me for Christmas this year. I love that little girl so much. She is beautiful, and she's angelic, and she's innocent. So I took her to Toys R Us last week, right? We got there pretty early. We practically had the whole store to ourselves. She's excited. She's a ball of energy. She's running all around. I'm just trying to keep up with her in this toy store. She winds up a couple aisles ahead of me, and all of a sudden I hear this loud crash. So I turn the corner, and there's my innocent, angelic, beautiful little granddaughter, all alone and nobody else around. She's standing over this busted up Barbie playhouse with the guiltiest look on her face you've ever seen. I said, Kinsley, did you break that? Do you know what she said to me? My innocent little 4-year-old granddaughter, she looked me right in the eye. She said, "No, Grandpa, I didn't break it." Now, if you've raised children, then you understand this. Like, kids have trouble just telling the truth. Think about this. We have to teach our kids just to tell the truth. We have to teach our kids to do the right thing. We have to teach our kids to be good.
Yes.
Now, what does that say about us as humans that we have to be taught to be good? Do you understand? Like being good does not come naturally for us. Doing the right thing, that is not usually our instinct. We have to be taught just to be good. Do you understand what Jesus is telling you this morning? Something is broken inside of us. And it makes it a lot easier for us to do bad things than good things. Something is broken inside of us. Now, Jesus felt very strongly about communicating the idea of our brokenness. And so his words deserve our utmost attention this morning. Because not one thing is going to change in your life in 2018 until you start taking a good long look at your own heart. The Old Testament prophet Haggai, he said, "Now this is what the Lord Almighty says. Give careful thought to your ways. You have planted much, but harvested little. You eat, but never have enough. You drink, but never have your fill. You put on clothes, but are not warm. You earn wages only to put them in a purse with holes in it. This is what the Lord Almighty says. Give careful thought to your ways." Does any of that hit close to home for you? Like you? Do you feel like something is missing in your life? Do you go to work every day but you never seem to get ahead? Do you have relationships but you don't have intimacy? Do you come to church but you still feel far from God? Do you have you planted much but harvested little? Because if that sounds like it, if any part of that sounds even a little bit like you, then you might want to listen, because this is what the Lord Almighty says. Not what Pastor Theo says. This is what the Lord God says. Give careful thought to your ways. Not my ways. Don't you worry about my ways. Give careful thought to your, not his way, not her ways. Give careful thought to your ways. Like, you examine your heart. You look at your decisions. Measure your words. Give careful thought to your ways. Let me tell you something about my God. My God always tells people the truth.
Oh, yes.
And the truth he's telling you right now is, stop blaming someone else and take a good long look in the mirror. Amen. Amen. Give careful thought to your ways. I wonder what you might find this year if your whole resolution was just to give careful thought to your ways. I wonder what you would find if you stopped paying so much attention to somebody else's ways and just paid attention to your own ways. I wonder what you might find. Some of you might find a lot of anger. Like you thought you just had a little bit of anger, but everybody else can see you've got quite a bit. You might find envy. Like you have this constant feeling that other people have it better than you. You might find insecurity. Maybe you just feel like you're not worth very much. Or maybe you find arrogance, like you actually think you're better than the other people around Or maybe you'd find a lot of disappointment. Life just has not gone the way you hoped it would. Well, listen, here's my whole sermon in one sentence. Whole sermon in one sentence. It's not what you do this year that matters the most to God. It's who you become. It's not what you do. It's who you are that matters the most to God. You know, people often ask me to pray with them, and sometimes I get asked to pray for some strange things. Very often I get asked to pray for people to get, a new car or a bigger house, or I was even asked to pray for a boat once. And I don't mind praying for that stuff because I know that stuff is going to make the person happy. But I also remind people that God's great desire is not to make us happy. Amen. It's to make us holy. Amen. Amen. I do not claim to speak for God. That was the job of the prophets. I'm no prophet. So I don't claim to speak for God, but I feel very confident in saying that God really is not very interested in your happiness. But He is deeply interested in your holiness. Yes. Like God's great goal is not to make your life a little more comfortable. His great goal is to radically transform your heart. Amen? So if that's His goal, how about we make that our resolution in 2018? In fact, how about instead of making a resolution this year, how about we make a revolution? How about we start focusing a whole lot more on the inside and a whole lot less on the outside? It's not easy to do, though. It's tough. In fact, it's tough. Working on the inside stuff, that's really hard to do. It's hard to work on the outside stuff, I know. It's hard to go to the gym every day. It is hard to put those cigarettes down. It's hard to lose that weight. It's hard to pay off that debt. Working on the outside stuff is hard. Working on the inside stuff is even harder. But just in case you're willing to try, I've got a few suggestions to start your new year. Here's my first suggestion. Seek honest feedback from other people. Other people will usually see you a whole lot better than you see yourself. So seek honest feedback from people and then really listen to what they tell you. Renita will sometimes say, Theo, we have to talk. Which usually means I've done something we have to talk about, right? And she'll say something to me like, honey, you're being too selfish. And do you know what my first response to that is? Well, my first response is not to say, oh, thank you, honey. Thank you for speaking that truth into my life. No, that's not my first. My first response is to get defensive. My first response is to defend myself. So I'll say, well, I'm not selfish at all. I'm a generous person. Clearly, you don't know me very well. But we're talking now about the person who knows me better than anybody else in the world. We're talking about the person who loves me more than anyone else ever has. And my first response is not to listen to that person. My first response is to defend myself to that person. You see, I'm quick to defend myself. Because deep inside, I'm afraid that if you really saw what was wrong with me, you wouldn't love me anymore. See, I'm quick to defend myself because I've got all this pride and I've got all this ego and I've got all this fear. And way down inside, I'm afraid that if you saw my flaws, you wouldn't even think I was worth loving. So it can be really hard to hear your honest feedback. But the thing is, I'm not going to change very much, and I'm not going to grow very much until I do listen to your feedback. And so that's my first suggestion. Here's my second one. Change you before you change them. You know, so often our tendency is to think, well, I can change, and I will change, but you need to change first. Like when Renita tells me I'm being selfish, right? I said, well, I'll stop being selfish just as soon as you start whatever it is, right? I'll change me just as soon as you change you. Nothing new about that. Jesus had to deal with that same thing. There was this occasion where Jesus appears to his disciples on the shore, and they share this meal of fish, and they're all talking together. And then Jesus takes Peter off by himself, you know. And Jesus challenges Peter to be more faithful. Jesus reminds Peter about his failures of the past, and he challenges him to be more faithful. It's this really powerful, intimate moment where Jesus is challenging Peter to be better. Well, right about that time, John comes walking up. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, you know what Peter does? When Peter saw him, he asked, Lord, what about him? What about that guy, Lord? You're telling me what's wrong with me. I know I've got my flaws, Jesus, but what about him? What about that guy? What are you going to do about him, Jesus? Jesus answered, if I want him to remain alive until I return, what is that to you? You must follow me. Amen. Now here's how I understand. Here's how I apply that to my life. Your issues are not an excuse for me not to work on my issues. Amen. You must follow me, Jesus said. You pay attention to me. That's right. You work with me on your life, and I'll work with them on their life. Amen. So many of us have this pattern where we say, I'll change, but you have to change first. Do you know what happens when two people are waiting for the other one to go first? Nothing happens. That's what happens. Nothing happens. Nothing changes. No progress is made. Listen, somebody has to go first. Somebody always has to go first. Now, in my life, that person needs to be me. And in your life, that person needs to be you. Somebody has to go first. Now, going first, that just means that instead of blaming somebody else, you accept the blame. Right. Oh my God, that's hard for us to do. It is hard for us to accept the blame for anything at all. And so this is one of those areas where we just have to follow Jesus. He is our example. Yes. You see, Jesus did not come blaming others. Jesus doesn't even blame you for the condition of your own heart. Instead, Jesus takes all that blame on himself. Yes. He took all of your blame on himself. He took your sin on himself. Amen? Praise God. You see, my friends, the cross is God's way of saying to the world, I'll go first. Yes. Amen. I'll sacrifice first. I'll take the blame so that you can go free. Yes. If I could encourage you to make any resolution in 2018, it would be to stop diagnosing what's wrong with other people and just be responsible for what's wrong with you. you.
Yes.
Change you before you change them. So, seek honest feedback from others. Change you before you change them. And then finally, remember this. Where you are weak is exactly where God's power will show up.
Amen. Amen.
You see, if you dare to take this journey, like if you dare to honestly look inward, you are not going to like everything you find. I was on vacation last year with my brother, and we were kind of planning out what we were going to do each day. We had all these pamphlets spread out, and kind of thinking about where we were going to go, what we were going to see. Well, I guess I was kind of dominating the conversation. I guess I was kind of deciding all these things. And all of a sudden, my brother blurts out, "Dude, you've been doing this your whole life. You always have to control everything." I said, "Whoa." Really? He said, yeah, you got control issues, bro. Now, honestly, I did not see that in myself. I said, I think you're wrong about that. But just to be sure, I started asking other people in my family who know me pretty good. You know what they all said? They said, your brother's right. You got control issues. Now, you know who the last person in the family was to figure that out? Me. Maybe you have control issues too. Or maybe you have anger issues. Or maybe you have jealousy issues. Or maybe you have insecurity issues. Well, the good news of the gospel is that no matter what your issues are, where you are weak is exactly where God's power can show up. In his letter to the Corinthian church, the Apostle Paul wrote about this weakness that he had. He said, there was given me a thorn in my flesh. Now, we don't know what that thorn was. There's a lot of speculation about it. But the truth is, we don't know. What we do know was that it was a source of weakness for Paul. And he wanted it gone. And he prayed about it. He said, 3 times I pleaded with the Lord to take it away from me. Paul desperately wants this weakness gone. But God said to him, my grace is sufficient for you, and my power is made perfect in weakness. Amen. That is one of the most beautiful things you will ever hear in your life. My power is made perfect in weakness. I mean, just think about it. It's contrary to all of our human thinking. Like, where is God's power made perfect? It's not in your strength. It's not in your self-sufficiency. It's not in your intelligence. It's not in your accomplishments. It's not in your resume. It's not in your reputation. No, God's power is made perfect in your weakness. Amen. God's power is made perfect in your broken places. God's power is made perfect way down deep in the darkest and dirtiest messes of your life. Like, that's where we find God. That's where his power shows up. That's where his power is made perfect. In your weakness. Jason, would you throw me back up on the stage now? I want you to listen very carefully to what I'm about to tell you. And I want you to never forget this. Christianity is true. And it is beautiful. And it is powerful. But the only way Christianity works is when you finally see the terrible mess that is in the mirror. The only way Christianity works is when you accept that the real problems in this world are not out there. They're in here. And when you are honest with yourself about that weakness, that's exactly where God's power will show up. Amen?
Amen.
So how about in 2018, instead of making a resolution, let's make a revolution. And we do it through those three things. Seek honest feedback from others. Change you before you change them. And always remember that wherever you are weak is right where God's power will show up. Amen? Listen, we're going to have our time of invitation now. I was kind of moved this morning by the baptism. Those are people that are truly placing themselves in the center of God's family. That's what you saw happen this morning. Joe talked about in his devotion about the communion is something that is taken by the family of God. I want to make sure that nobody feels left out when we talk about the family of God. It's not an exclusive club. Everyone is welcome. Everyone is welcome. If you feel like you're not taking communion, if you haven't been baptized, if you want to be a part of the family of God, then don't leave today without seeing me, because I'd love to tell you how to do that. Amen? Amen. If you have any other prayer needs, maybe a good idea to start the new year on your knees talking to God. Maybe talk about those suggestions I made this morning. But you're about to walk out those doors and you're going to walk into a whole new year. How about getting prayed up here before you go out there? Will you come?